For me, the word larceny conjures up bad images. Red and blue flashing lights, handcuffs, a face smashed against the hood of a hot car, and a get in the car long hair kind of story.
I don't know about all that, but I don't think this story's that far off of that.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, Mr. W2 knows the backstory on this one. And here pretty soon you will too on this episode of Savor the Burn. Welcome one and all to this episode of the Savor the Burn podcast. My name is Jonathan, and over to the right of me here, as far as you're concerned, is Mr. Wayne Backstory Wilkes. That's only funny if you watch the intro, so rewind and watch it if you don't get it. Anyway, how do you do today, sir?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm glad to be back here and excited about what we're getting into tonight.
Yeah, I am too.
So this is a first for me, so I'm very excited.
Before we get started on that, I got to compliment you. You probably noticed, if you pay close attention, things have changed a little bit behind us. Like there's been a shift in the in Savor the Burn Studios, and it looks good. It feels good. Yeah, what do we got here? We got some Larceny Barrel Proof.
Yeah.
It's a wheated bourbon.
Yeah, so when I was in Louisville back in June for Father's Day, we stopped in at Heaven Hill, and actually we did the Bottled and Bond tour, which was super, super cool. That's where I got this cool little lanyard with the little mini Glencairn attached to it, so everywhere we walked, we had our own tasting glass.
I like it. Is this the place that had... like every Rickhouse was locked and you had to have a certain key to get in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like every bottle has the potential to be bottled and bond?
Yeah, so Larceny is one of Heaven Hill's products, and I've had the regular Larceny before. Not to compare, but Larceny is...
It's a decent bourbon.
It is. It's, I hear a lot of people say that they feel like it's a little bit tamer version of the Elijah Craig's small batch, and I don't disagree with that. But I have not had the barrel proof, and I've heard great things about this, and I've been interested in getting into it, and I see it here and there around town. Once in a while, it's usually on a special shelf. Sometimes it's, depending on the store, it's allocated.
Yeah. Well, it's only released 3 times a year.
Yeah.
What did we say? Like January, May, and something else?
Yeah. This one is the B5, so that would be the second batch of the year, 5 being May 24.
Okay.
So B5 24.
B524.
Yeah. And so while I was at Heaven Hill, they had ample of these on the shelf, and I came home with one. It's for the podcast.
It's for the podcast. And it's a cool looking bottle.
Yeah.
I like the shape of it. You know, kind of like broad shouldered, like a prison guard.
Yeah, and they just I haven't spent a lot of time studying it to understand and know all the details about what all is into it, but they just released a thing online that the barrel proof and the regular small batch both got new label designs. Okay. I've heard some people going off on it, but I think it's kind of those people that complain about everything.
Right.
It's whatever.
Yeah, some people aren't happy unless they're mad about something. And it's also part of the whole John E. Fitzgerald line.
Yeah. Yeah, and getting into this and learning a little bit, I knew that Fitzgerald was connected to Heaven Hill. Obviously, Old Fitzgerald, which comes in the super cool decanter. There's several variations on that one. There's a 8-year, there's a 10-year. I believe there's a 12-year. There's a 15-year, an 18-year, and I believe a 21-year, maybe. I believe that the Old Fitzgerald is a once-a-year release. And so, and it varies. So 1 year it might be the 10-year, the next year it might be the 15-year.
Okay. That makes sense.
But if you recall from the pictures, though, when we visited the Stetzel-Weller distillery, which they make, that's where Blade & Bow is made, The smokestack outside of there says Fitzgerald on there.
Yep.
And that's because that old Fitzgerald actually used to be a Stutzel-Weller product until, I don't remember the dates. I don't have that in front of me, but they sold it off to Heaven Hill. And then Heaven Hill kind of did a reboot of it and brought it back. And
So Heaven Hill's been in the buying business for a while, huh?
apparently.
Buying and acquisitions.
Yes, sir. But this is Larceny.
Yes.
Let's get into the story on this one.
Yeah. You talk, I pour?
That
Or-
sounds great.
All right.
Pour it up. So, like I said, this is batch B524, which for them, they release 3 times a year. So, it's the second batch B, and 5 being the month, May, and year 2024. This is a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. It is aged 6 to 8 years.
Okay. Is it a blend?
Look at the front of the bottle real quick.
Well, no, it can't. It's batch 8. I mean, it's a batch. It doesn't say blended.
Yeah, well, batch
Barrel proof.
Batch means blended, so yes, unless it explicitly says single barrel, it's blended. It's a batch.
Okay.
It's
I
blended.
thought a batch was like the run, like the distill run, or the still run.
More than one barrel dumped is a blend.
That makes sense. Yeah, if it's
a
not
batch.
single barrel.
Now, I will stop and say that I feel that technically it is a blend, but you could also argue that that's not a blend if all the barrels involved are the same thing. So in this case, it is a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. So these are all straight bourbon whiskeys that are batched together. That would make this some people would then not consider this a blend because a blend would be a little bit of rye, a little bit of straight bourbon, maybe a little bit of sour mash.
Yeah. To me, that's
So-
the way. But I do see what you're saying, though. Like, even if it was the same, batch distillate, and they put it in, 4 or 5 different barrels, you dump all those barrels, it's now blended.
Yeah. So I'm going to take back what I said and say this is a small batch and leave it at that.
Let's leave it at that. It's barrel proof from a small batch.
Yes.
And let's hear this here. Ooh.
That's a real cork.
Yeah, I felt the bottle go.
So this is Categories Bourbon, distilled at Heaven Hill, 6 to 8 years, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. This particular batch comes in at 125.4 proof. Barrel proof, they're not lying.
Yeah, that's a healthy pour.
That's a good color too.
It's beautiful.
So Heaven Hill Distilleries is unique. They are one of the oldest and largest bourbon distillers in the world. They have the second largest standing inventory of aging bourbon. You know who they're second to?
Jim Beam. You walked me right into that one.
I sure did.
Thank goodness.
They have the second largest standing inventory of aging bourbon, and they have grown to become the 7th largest supplier of spirits in the U.S. But they are still family owned. In fact, they are the only family owned production house left in Kentucky. God bless the Shapiro family. The spirit brands owned and controlled by Heaven Hill includes Evan Williams, Elijah Craig, and their namesake Heaven Hill, and many dozen more. Larceny is the core product using Heaven Hill's wheated bourbon mash. Next, let's talk about the name, John E. Fitzgerald, Larceny Barrel Proof. Back in the day, John E. Fitzgerald was a federal Treasury agent assigned to Heaven Hill's bourbon rickhouses. At night, he would slip in to sample the barrels.
You sneaky dog.
They named the brand Old Fitzgerald after him. Larceny bourbon is a tribute to the whiskey he protected.
Protected? Yeah, he protected it. Sneaky snake.
So John Fitzgerald used to guard the bonded rickhouses, and while no one was looking, sippity sip.
Sneaky Pete.
Committing larceny.
Yeah, that's exactly what larceny is. Like the taking of someone else's property without them. It's stealing is what it is.
Oh damn! That's a great nose.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a bit of a caramel bomb.
Yep. Some cinnamon. I think some maple syrup. Or definitely
pulling maple?
I would say maple. Maybe brown sugar.
Maybe both.
Yeah. Some vanilla. Yeah, like you said.
Vanilla for sure.
Caramel bomb. And that's a great color. You got some sticky legs.
Yeah, the color's great, and the legs are nice and thick. Yes. Get it on the palate, shall we?
Shit, let's do it.
That's an interesting palate. It bit the tongue. On me, it bit the tongue. But it's got that Larceny taste to it. Ooh. That's like...
I didn't get a bite, but I did a Kentucky chew on there.
A chew? You did the chew?
I did the chew. I think it helped kind of arrest the bite. But yeah, there's I can taste the wheat on that.
Wheat and just sweet. It's like you said maple caramel before, sweet, and I taste maple now.
Yeah, the maple is all over the palate. You know, I said I did the Kentucky chew on that, but it may have subsided the bite of the proof, but that proof definitely numbed the entire inside of my mouth in the process.
Did you say sour mash? Because this has something to it that feels like sour mash.
As I was talking about blend versus small batch, you know, I was mentioning, you know, and now I'm completely correcting myself because I think calling something a blend should and does give the notation that it is a blend of a lot of different types. For instance, the little book, 2024 Path Not Taken.
Yeah,
that is a whole bunch of rye and then just a little bit of 18-year straight bourbon on top of it. So and what's funny to me about that is, I mean, there's literally like 4-year, 5-year, 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 11-year straight rye whiskeys in that. And then there's an 18-year straight bourbon in that blend. As a result of that, though, it's not a bourbon. It's not a rye. It's an American whiskey. You know, it kind of falls out of those niche categories, if you will, which there's nothing wrong with, but just, you know, you think about Little Book, or you think about Booker's. Booker's is the original small batch, but it is always a Kentucky straight bourbon. Little Book is whatever it ends up being for that year. And this particular year, it's just an American whiskey because it's a blend. I like this a lot.
It's all right. So this definitely drinks like 125 proof whiskey. Like it just does. Like it's like, whew, that's hot. Talk to me a little bit about the finish. I have long, sweet, and warm finish. I'm tasting barley. There is barley. It's malted. It's malted barley in here. On the website, I saw it had 20% wheat, 68% corn, and 12% malted barley. And
that's a decent amount of.
I think the malted barley showed up on the finish for me.
Yeah, to me the finish is fantastic. I mean, it's nice and long and lingering, and so you're left with a lot of heat that just kind of slowly tapers off. But all those flavors that you got on the nose all the way through to the palate are still there, kind of slowly fading out.
And they're slowly revealing themselves as the palate, tapers off.
I think the wheat reveals itself more as the finish tapers.
Some people don't really like wheated bourbons. I don't really know why. But, nothing's for everybody. Some people don't like Taco Bell. I love Taco Bell.
It's probably been 10 years since I've had Taco Bell.
Dude, you got one right at the street. Yeah, first sniff on the nose is like, I got stabbed a little bit. I was like, hey! You'll see it. I was like, well, maybe I need to let this breathe out a little bit and check out the legs on this for a minute. And it's got great color, great legs.
I am a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'll get into a little bit more specifics about Heaven Hill when we do the Bottled and Bond.
There's oak on that pallet.
Yes, there is.
Did you? Okay. Yeah.
I agree with that. I'll get into a little bit more of the Heaven Hill stuff when we get into their flagship Bottled and Bond bottle. But when I did the tour, one of the things that I learned that I thought, and maybe a lot of distilleries do this, and so maybe it's not as big of a deal as it kind of was for me when I heard it, because I just thought it was super cool, is, Heaven Hill has a handful of Bottled and Bond products. The Henry McKenna 10-year Bottled and Bond. The Mellow Corn Bottled and Bond. The Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond product. And Evan Williams also has a Bottled and Bond. And I think there's a couple other ones. But Larceny is not a Bottled and Bond product. I forget how many different Rickhouses. They have a lot of Rickhouses. Just doing a quick look to see if I have anything on here. 70 plus Rickhouses across 7 different sites. That's a lot of Rickhouses. They decided to go ahead and federally bond every single one of their Rickhouses. So that as they're barreling things up and experimenting or needing additional space or whatever, they can put their bottles, their barrels, in any Rickhouse, anywhere they want to, because they're all federally bonded. So, which, by the way, when Faith, Tim, and I, the three of us, did the tour, one of the things that we talked about on the way there is, are we going to get to go into the Rickhouses first and foremost, because we weren't really sure about that. But then, okay, if the Rickhouse is bonded, is there going to be an armed guard in front of it, or what?
Right. How, you don't know.
How does that work?
You don't know.
And we show up, and there was not an armed guard when we got there. I'm sure that they have security, and I'm sure that there is guards that are assigned to the various Rickhouses. But when we showed up, our tour guide, the entrance door and the exit door were just around, they were like 10 feet from the corner of the Rickhouse from each other. So they were very close in proximity. She unlocked the exit door and then made a little funny about I better unlock this door so we're not trapped at the end of the tour. And then she unlocked, so a big, huge padlock on the doors, so you're not going in there unless you have a key. And the entire complex
or a hammer and a crowbar.
The whole complex is gated too. So, and that is also locked too. So she had to unlock a padlock on the big iron gate before we could actually walk the sidewalk up to the Rickhouse. And we started that tour in their oldest Rickhouse. And I tell you what, we walked in and you are just hit with old oak, caramel, and vanilla just hits you. And
it's wild how those smells and those tastes can happen from oak wood. Like,
yeah,
how? But it just does.
And that was a very big contrast from the last Rickhouse that we went in, which is their newest Rickhouse. And I mean, it still smelled incredible, but it was all super new, all new wood. And yeah, very, very, very cool experience. And I'm very glad that this was on the shelves, freshly released. And if I remember correctly, the MSRP on that is $68-ish. So not too bad. We usually start our nights off on the lower proofed and work our way up. It just so happens this night we're working backwards.
Yeah.
So we're getting the pow right out the gate. Mm-hmm. This is good though. I imagine this mix in a cocktail would be phenomenal. It's got proof to spare, so you can throw just about anything you want at it. There is a sharpness I feel to some of the flavors that are in there. But then, like you had stated, it's a caramel bomb on the nose and palate, and you have vanilla and all these things going on. I think this would make a great cocktail. Which
cocktails, though?
I think you can throw a lot of different cocktails at this.
I agree with you, but when it comes to cocktails, nose, you're gonna cut a lot of the nose out.
Sure.
So we'll skip
every
that.
cocktail will.
We'll skip that, but on the
I think this would make a great
on the
Boulevardier.
We talked about wheat and maple, caramel sweet, oak. On the finish,
let's start with old fashioned.
On the finish, there was a touch of barley. It was long, sweet, warm finish, light oak. So I think whatever cocktail you throw at this, it's just going to kick its ass. With such a high proof,
in a good way,
in a great way. It's 125 proof. You might even put something in the fucking shaker and do the shaker for a while.
Dude, you can put your egg white in there and your lemon juice and all the things and shake this up.
I got thinking about cocktails and forgot I was doing math.
And it's gonna say, "Hold my beer."
I'm trying to work my glass down so I can get a second nose after we do our rating here.
Before we get to the second nose on this, what did you give it on the first nose?
First nose, I gave it a 375.
Okay. How
about you?
How come?
Well, first off, it bit me.
And that's not 375 is still a great nose.
Yeah. I think it's the upper side of good, lower side of great.
Yeah.
So, first off, it bit me. And I should have known going into this. When I wrote the number down, 125.4, I knew it was going to be a hot one.
It was that 0.4, wasn't it?
I just can't handle the 0.4. I don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, so for whatever reason, it caught me way off guard. And I was like, whoo! But, now that I'm warmed up and used to it, trying to get the nose on that, more scents, flavors bloomed out.
I'm getting like a second hot flash in the back of my throat.
Yeah, but it might be me.
It's still radiating some heat.
I'm incredibly attractive, come to find out. But yet, the more it sat in the glass, and the more I got to get the pull. I just accidentally caught a second nose off of there. That smells really good, dude.
Yep.
Dudes and dudettes, theys and thems. That's a great second nose. But the more I smelled it on the nose, I got more and more of that maple and kind of brown sugar, especially the cinnamon. What did you give it?
Well, I have been mulling over that 125.4 proof since I got back from Louisville. So that number was in my head, and I knew this was going to be a hot tamale. So I did the little Faith and Tim little drive-by, fly-by, left to right, right to left. I gave it a 4.5.
You gave it a 4.5.
4.5.
Yes. All right. Well,
so I was prepared for it, so I did not get bit on the nose.
Yeah, and I haven't touched.
I very delicately eased into
for whatever reason. I haven't touched whiskey at all since last week. So I come in here and the first one I get is 125.4. It's like woo. So it's gonna hit me a little extra hard. I just for whatever reason I didn't. It's not like I was trying to avoid it.
That's fair.
It's just sometimes you don't get around to it.
Yeah, that's
whatever. How about the palate?
Palate, I gave it 4.25.
I gave it the exact same score.
The palate.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the palate was fantastic, and I dropped it from the nose just not because it was lacking anything that the nose had. It's just that I was prepared and I went into it and I eased into my nose, and so I didn't get the ethanol pinch on the nose and or any of those things, and as a result of that, the nose was palate is usually my high score, and then nose and then finish. On this one though, the nose was a wow. For me. The palate was too, but I just felt that I mean everything that I expected because of the nose was there. There was nothing to push it up and above.
For me, when it came to the nose, going back to the nose, when I said it was a caramel bomb, that usually it's an unspoken way of saying that there was a wow moment on the nose. So
I agree with that.
I gave it a 375 for whatever stupid reason, but I love wow moments, and caramel bombs are great.
375 was your nose.
Yeah, that was for the nose.
So your palate.
So on the palate, it's the same as your palate, 4.25. That's where the wheat showed up, and the maple carried through. Caramel.
The maple opened up a little bit.
The caramel sweet. Yeah, the maple not only carried through. Yeah, it opened up a little bit. It kind of bloomed a little bit, and we became aware of the caramel sweet. And after a few pulls on the old dram here, the old Glencairn that we have available at savortheburn.com/shop. Just scroll down, you'll see them in there. The oak started to show up too.
Yep,
and then. Speaking of oak, the oak was also kind of a light oak tasting point for me on the finish. Okay, so you picked it up too.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
I wrote it down here. I didn't circle it or denotate it in any kind of way. So that brings us to the finish. What did you give it on the finish?
The finish, I gave it a 4.5.
Jesus. Okay. All right. So I gave it a 4.
Okay.
Because I thought it had everything. I thought 4 was a great score.
Yeah.
Because 4 gave me a long finish. I like a long finish. It's sweet. I love sweet. And warm. I'm a fan of the warm, Kentucky hug kind of finish. For me, the barley showed up on the finish, and I didn't notice the barley on the nose or the palate. But then barley is it's malted barley, and it's only 12%. So, it's not going to be front and center. Not like the corn. The corn was 68%. The wheat was 20%. We picked up on the wheat early. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So I even wrote down Kentucky hug. For me, the Kentucky hug showed up on the finish.
Yeah.
What a great time to have a hug. It's on the finish. So light oak is also another tasting note that showed up for me on the finish. So I really, for whatever reason, I thought 4 was a good score on the finish, but 4.5 is much better. It's only half a point, but it's much better.
Yeah.
So how about bottle presentation?
Yeah.
We haven't talked about the bottle presentation.
No. What's cool is, so kind of go back to some of these things. They got the keys all over the place.
Yeah.
There's a key
on the neck label.
On the neck label. There's keys on either side of the John E. Fitzgerald, and then there's the big keyhole in the middle.
Right.
Well, that's all doing a little bit of a wink and nod to the fact that Johnny Fitzgerald, while he was supposed to be guarding said bonded Rickhouse, he was putting his key because he was on guard, so he had the key.
Yeah.
He was going in and going, ooh, what's in this barrel?
I mean, you know what? It could be a hazardous substance in the wrong hands. Yeah. I mean, you have to test it somehow to find out whether or not it's going to be a danger to, yourself or others, or
which I think is
property.
Along the same lines, I think it's funny that the apparatus that's typically used to draw a pour out of the barrel is called a whiskey thief. Which that's
pretty fucking great. That's funny. And that's great.
I'm petrified. And I'm also super proud that by the time we left Louisville, Henry knew that was called a whiskey thief. we were somewhere.
That's a jaw drop moment for me. I was like, what? How did he know?
We were somewhere. So while we were on the tour, there was a little there was like a little like museum, like tour
so little
place.
man got to walk around with you.
No.
Oh.
No, we went out and went through the Rickhouses or whatever, but in the visitor center, they had kind of like a little museum kind of area that you could kind of walk through or whatever.
Okay.
And I think at some point there was something that, he asked, Mama, what is that? And I think she pointed out to what that was. 2 days later, we're somewhere, and he points to the wall, a picture on the wall. He goes, Daddy, that's a thief. And I'm like, what? He's like, that's a thief. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he got up closer and he pointed to the whiskey thief thing. He's like, a thief. And I was like, and then it hit me. I'm like, oh my.
I've got a problem.
So 4 years old, he knows what a whiskey
or
thief
a savant of some kind. He's amazing. That's great.
So yeah, we have Larceny. We have John Fitzgerald breaking into the Rickhouse he's guarding, and then
it's probably because of him they called it a whiskey thief.
You know what? I would not be surprised.
I would not be surprised one iota.
Homework, or click the subscribe button below, hit the bell, leave us a comment, and if you know the origins of
absolutely
when and where that was named a whiskey thief,
and who's responsible, name names. We want to know. I want to know.
I think it very likely could be Johnny Fitzgerald.
Very well could be. Well, all that said, what did you give it for bottle presentation?
I gave it an even 4.
So did I. I love the nod to history.
Yeah, a lot of nods to history. You've got a unique bottle. You do not have, and actually, I mean, it's a little bit of a fattened keyhole. But if you take that keyhole design on the front of it, it mimics the shape of the bottle. The bottle is a keyhole shape.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay. See, cool. I thought it was like a guard from the 1920s or something. Prison guard kind of shape. Square shoulders. And then whatever. I don't know. That's like the torso of the guard kind of thing. But whatever. I have weird thoughts. What was your final score?
8 5/8. 8.625. And yours?
Mine was 8 even. Just because of my low scores. I mean, if it's not Jim Beam, you never know what I'm going to give it. You never know.
That was later in the afternoon.
It was. And unfortunately, for this bottle, I may have done it a disservice by not staying whiskeyed up during the week. And not being mentally aware. That's honey. That's cereal, especially oat.
Mm-hmm. The barley,
oats and honey.
The barley's definitely there on the second nose.
Yeah,
which I think is presenting itself as a multigrain cereal.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's good.
That's beautiful. That might be one of the better second noses that we've ever had.
Yep.
I mean, that just smells beautiful. I mean, if you could have that scent in a potpourri basket, and where do women keep potpourri? Like in a basket in the back of the toilet? No, that's seashells. Why do women always have a basket of seashells in the bathroom?
As my sister would say, I want this in a candle.
Girl, same. I would absolutely take that in a candle. That'd be like the quintessential candle smell that you want.
I don't disagree with that.
When it comes to vanilla, if you go to a store and they've got candles and you pick up something that says vanilla fucking.
So many of those though present themselves more of like a birthday cake kind of a vanilla.
You pop that cap and you smell it. It's like ugh. It's
not the same vanilla as a bourbon vanilla.
It's not. It's not like actual fucking vanilla. So what candles do. Why are we talking about candles? What candles do is they ruin smells for the most part. You're lucky if you find one that says vanilla and doesn't actually make you want to throw up, or pumpkin. In the fall, I just want to burn a pumpkin candle, or an autumn harvest candle or whatever, whatever. I'm a slut for fall.
Cinnamon
apple. You're lucky if it doesn't smell like some kind of baking awfulness that just makes you want to run out of the house and gag in the front, retch in the front yard. So, off of that subject. So, I said here, coming in hot at 125.4 proof, batch number B524 is a warm and inviting experience for any barrel-proof fan. If you like what the Larceny brand has to offer and enjoy a higher proofed, uncut, unfiltered bourbon experience, grab a bottle today and let us know if you agree with our assessments.
I like it.
He likes it. By golly, so do I. So, definitely be sure to check out this bottle and many more at savortheburn.com in our liquor cabinet. Hit the drop-down menu, you'll see it right there, liquor cabinet. And this one, for whatever reason, I mean, it came out at an 8 for me, 8 and 5/8 for you. It definitely ranked in the higher... in the upper echelon of bourbons as far as we're concerned. It's definitely good. I would not take this bottle into existence band practice. It doesn't deserve the death that they would dole. It would not be good. It would not be good. So, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Savor the Burn podcast. If you like what we're doing, please like and share. Send it to all your bourbon enthusiast friends and family, hopefully. And if you really like what we're doing and you want to support us, check us out on Patreon. There's a link for that also in the drop-down menu at savortheburn.com. So no matter who you are, where you are, what you're drinking, and who you're drinking it with, never forget, keep on burning.